Hello, thank you for watching my video today, and this is all about my rescue cat Noah. Noah was rescued by my beautiful daughter-in-law. He was leading a fairly, how shall we say, feral life and hunting for his own food, etc. So she brought him home, and of course I eventually ended up his new forever mummy. And he has been just the most delightful, nurturing animal I think I've ever had. He has settled in rather nicely, and he's very affectionate. He's a little bit nervous today because he's not used to, celebrity life and, life on the camera. But he actually has an Instagram account now, and that account will be in the description box below. And he's learning to use a paw pad, or an iPad, as we call them. So I will try and get some photos of him doing that as time progresses, and there'll be a link to his Instagram account in the description box below. Well, now I've had that workout with Noah. We've called him Noah. And when he arrived, it was a bit of a culture shock for me because I've not really been a cat person. I have two little dogs, but so I had to sort of do a crash course, as we all do, Google what do I do? And Noah is a senior cat, and you can tell by some of his scars he's had a fairly, shall I say, rugged life. Not a lot of human kindness or contact, but normally when not on the camera, he's full of affection, usually sits on the keyboard of my computer and plays with these sorts of things. So we have a lot of fun time together. Now, the thing that I found just so wonderful about Noah was that my daughter-in-law rescued him. He was in the process of being dispatched or put down, euthanized. And my daughter-in-law thought no, because every time she went to that place, he would jump in her car as though he wanted to go somewhere. So the previous owner or possessor said, take him. So she brought him home, and we all fell in love with Noah. And so now he shares my life with me. And I just wonder at the way Hashem works. I'm not a cat person, and now I'm besotted by Noah. He has brought contentment and joy and makes me smile, and he just is a beautiful interruption to my daily routine. So the purpose of this video, you may ask, what is it? Well, it's made me very conscious of our seventh Noahide law, which in Hebrew is Ava Minahai. And it actually means do not tear the limb from a still living animal, which sounds peculiar, but believe it or not, there is wisdom in that statement, and that means that you can't eat an animal while it's still living. In other words, it's regarding cruelty to animals. Not just that. The seventh Noahide law is a very complex law with lots of do's and don'ts in it. And Noah is under the protection of that Noahide law, where he was rehomed to a better environment. He's doing nicely, a lot of work in the beginning, but we are so pleased to have him. And I want to stress to you all that come celebrations, birthdays, etc., often people go out and buy a new puppy or a new kitten or whatever. Please think before you do that. I know they're all very cute and fluffy and gorgeous, but there are some beautiful cats and dogs especially out there that needing you home for various reasons. They're either been neglected, unwanted, they've been turned out, Or it could even be a beautiful cat or dog that's belonged to some elderly person who is deceased, or many, many, many reasons why they're perfectly good animals. They're not throwaway items when the novelty wears off them. They are one of God's creatures. And so we must be mindful of them just as we're mindful of our fellow man. Now, the seventh Noahide law covers everything from agriculture to land care. I just mentioned kindness and assistance to animals, etc. It talks about not crossbreeding species of animals or species of trees. There's a whole lot of things, and if you want to find out all about it, just go to the Noahide, the Divine Code book, and this is the 4th edition, and there's a whole section there on Ava Minahai, and it goes into it in far too much detail for me to do in this video. But Noah has come into my life, or into the farm life. And another thing is that because we live on a farm and we have horses, cattle, they have working dogs, now we have a cat, there are obligations that we have in regards to our animals, be they the cattle or Noah. And we must be mindful of those things because Hashem has commanded us to do that. So we have to house even the working dogs have to have a proper weatherproof kennel. Certainly they may have to be put on a chain sometime at night because of them. A male dog might go straying for a female friend or something like that. So, but all those things have to be done humanely. They have to be housed correctly, exercised, but in our case, they're working dogs, so they get plenty of exercise. They're glad to come home, and they'll run up to that chain sometimes and say, "Can I knock off now, boss? I've had it." And they get fed a correct diet. And of course, we talk to them. They get affection. They get rewards when they do really good things, and they get ignored when they're a little bit naughty, or we might have to raise our voice a bit, come behind, come back here type of thing. So we live and breathe very close to the 7th Noahide law by the nature of us being on a working property that has livestock and dogs, domestic dogs, and now Noah the cat has come to live with us. So please do be careful about purchasing a pet. Find out if there is some suitable pet you can rehome. I can't imagine what my life was like before Noah came into it. He's a joy. He's a delight. He's naughty still sometimes, So he'll often get in his kitty litter just to play, and he'll scatter it. It's like broadacre planting of of kitty litter clay. It's not soil, he's just playing with it, because these are things he never had anything like these comforts in his previous environment. But he's learned how to use it properly, but on the other hand, he likes a little game in it. It took him a while to get used to sleeping in his own bed, but mind you, he does start off there and then migrates into bed with me, which it's quite nice. He has, I've bought him a couple of toys which he's circled a few times and not interested. Does like a zipper. I took a broken zipper I took out of my son's coat and replaced. Well, the broken bit fell on the floor and he pounced on that, loved it. I think he thinks it's a big worm or maybe a black snake. It's a big long zipper like this. So that's a regular toy. He pounces and exercises on that. Loves my sewing room. As soon as the door's open, he comes from nowhere and gets in there. Quilters tell me that their cats love patchwork, and that must be the smell of the fabric, the new fabric perhaps. But if you have a pet, make sure you do get it vet checked regular or once a year or whatever. It's immunised. Now, with Noah, when he came to me, he had dreadful diarrhea. I mean, so serious he barely made it to the kitty litter sometimes. So I had to do something about that. And what it turned out was it was from the leftover of his previous feral life, as in eating anything and everything, not eating a proper regular diet. So he would gorge and then, probably affect his bowels. And also the fact that he had never been looked at by a vet, never had any worming preventatives or anything. So there was a big long march there for us. So we had had all that done and put his dog. We bought a very expensive cat food just to start him getting all the proper nutrients and things he'd need. And then, but there are other less expensive ones around. But we thought just to start off with, let's get in the top of the range so we can get his alimentary canal back into some sort of normalcy. And then shock comes shock after he had several worm treatments. I have seen tapeworms out of dogs and things like that, but I've never had anything to do with cat. This cat, Noah, was housing this tapeworm, which obviously was killed by the medication, but it came out in about 3 different segments in his pooies. And each segment was about 12 inches long, very skinny. Skinny is as only about the width of a drinking straw, but you could clearly, I've seen enough tapeworms, so I knew it was a tapeworm and it was dead. But it wasn't 3 separate ones, but it was, so how big and how bad that tapeworm was floating around in his colon and everywhere else, gosh knows where else, and how long had he had it. And from the moment he finally got rid of this tapeworm, he just overnight started to, even his fur, his hair, started to look shinier. And so looking after an animal, whether it be rehomed or your own, it is a responsibility. Make sure they're wormed regularly. Make sure they haven't got stick-fast fleas and all manner of pests known to the environment that you're living in or the corner of the world you're living in. You have to check their teeth. You have to make sure they're eating an adequate diet, their weight's right for age and size and things like that. So it is a responsibility. It's not as simple as going down to the local pet shop, buying this cute little dewy-eyed puppy, bringing it home, and then when it starts ripping your school bags apart or your clothes, or especially your shoes, the dog or cat becomes unpopular. So then people think, it's like a throwaway world, we'll get rid of it. Well, don't just discard it. Try and rehome it or surrender it to an animal refuge or something like that, because somebody's going to come along. Hashem's going to guide someone in to get that little dog or cat and give it a loving and beautiful home. And so I first of all thank my daughter-in-law for rescuing Noah. And I couldn't imagine my life now without Noah. So he is starting to learn how to use the iPad, but once he gets a bit more confident with it, I'll try and do a little video of that for you. He's got some cute habits. I bought him a scratching pole thing. Well, he's still having more fun with the box that came in. Occasionally, he has a gratuitous scratch on the scratching pole, but mostly he's still ripping the corrugated cardboard box apart. He seems to love that. So, and also Noah, we've set up an Instagram account for him with the view to enlightening and prompting people about the 7th Noahide law, particularly rehoming or uh, animals and things like that, that we must be, they are part of our responsibility as well. So that's the reason I've set the account up. Now, Noah and I aren't real techie up to date with how to operate Instagram, so my young grandson's teaching me. So we're only starting off very gently, but I will leave a link for his Instagram account in the description box. It's called all lowercase Noah underscore cat. That's KAT number and 4. So Noah underscore cat 4. He's got 2 followers already. So we're going to see a little bit more of Noah in relation to the 7th Noahide law. So just remember, please think about, if you've got a pet that you can't cope with anymore, try and find a home or surrender it. Don't like Noah would have been euthanized. That's the stage it was getting to with him, because the previous place he lived, he actually got into a small box of guinea pigs there were some fatalities. So where he was, said that's it, he's got to get, the bullet, so to speak. And luckily my beautiful daughter-in-law was there and said, no, I'll take him. I'll find a home for him. Well, she didn't have to look too far, of course. At first I was a bit dubious. I thought, I've got 2 little dogs. I don't know, I've never really, I'll give it a trial. Well, Noah's settled in. He's part of our family now. The dogs aren't that particularly worried about him, I don't think. So again, please consider your responsibility when it comes to either animals that you already have or an animal or a pet that you may be going to purchase or acquire. So it is a responsibility, and it is one of the 7 Noahide laws commanded to us by Hashem. So it is a responsibility. It's not just putting a bowl of food in front of the cat. It's all the other things, the worming, the vet checks, making sure that they haven't got any injuries, and most of all, of course, love. And Noah has really crawled into my heart. He's snuggled up in there. I had no idea what a joy a cat could be. But anyway, he's at his forever home now, and I hope you've got some animal you've rescued. Now, because I'm new at being a cat mum, I would be very pleased if any of you left comments on future directions I should take with him, apart from the Instagram account and the paw pad. So thank you all for listening, and please, I want you all to remember about your responsibility to animals and wildlife. In the meantime, please take care, and God bless.